Well, hello, hi, low, everybody. I figured, hey, what better than today to hit with a new live stream? And what car should I buy? Word has it, rumors have it that Toyota engines are blowing up. Is that a fact? Is that what's going on? We're going to hit some of these questions. And anyone on board, please reach out if you've got questions. And members, even more specifically, if you're a member, definitely I'll target some of your questions as well. But yeah, come on board. And today's a great day. Hey, it's a Monday afternoon here where I'm sitting. It's about 3:20. It's great, sun shining. It's gorgeous. And I'm going to head on out and catch some rays here when I'm wrapped up. But this is a great day to talk about cars that you should maybe or shouldn't buy. This is great. So anyway, welcome everybody. If you got any questions about the types of cars you may or may not want to buy, I'd certainly look at that and we can tackle that. So for the time being, before any questions roll in, and before we talk about today's primary subject, which is Toyota engines and them blowing up, I've got some new news on some of that information. Some of you would probably be really curious to hear about. But before we dive into that, I'm going to hit a few questions. I do have a question here that came in on my question board on the comments that came in from Alina 9831, who says, I'm looking into a 2021 BMW M550i, reliable, or should I stick to a 540 or even a 530? Well, Alino, what I would say is, so here's the way I'm going to balance this question, because if you are a person, if you've got a little bit more of a budget and you're okay in making, repairs, and, I would say if you're going to own something like a twin turbo V8 engine that you'll find in the 550 BMWs, I'd say you should have a little extra money in your pocket. If you blow a turbo, the maintenance costs are high on it. Heavier battery draw. I mean, they're a more expensive car to maintain. When they break, they are as well. Now, the current generation 550s are a lot more durable. Those upgrades on the V8s and the 4.4s are a lot better than they were in the first generation of that N63 was an absolute disaster with heavy oil burning and valve guides, top end engine wear. Timing chains were sometimes a failure, battery draw. I mean, component failure everywhere. It was a pricey engine to look after. Things have gotten better, but they're still not perfect. So, in short, what I'd say for somebody looking for a 5 Series BMW of this 21 generation, which is what Alina's looking for, 540 or 530, I'd say don't even bother with the 530, in my opinion, unless you really, really, literally don't care about performance at all in any way, shape, or form. Because 250 horsepower is fine, maybe in the 3 Series cars. But you step it up, you put a little more girth to that car, a little more weight to it, and that 4-cylinder starts to feel a little anemic. That's where I would always kind of defer to the 540. The 540 is going to be the sweet spot. That is a great engine. It's not perfect. The 540s, again, 340s, 440s, anything 40 Series X3 or X5 or X4 M40s. And in the 40 Series, you're going to get that great B58 heat encapsulation. You don't get as much of that top up and down temperature swings. You get better fuel injection, better bottom end, and they make good power. You can tune them too. So that would be where I would look from that perspective. So if you're looking at a 5 Series car and you don't want all in with the M5, if you have the bigger budget and you can tolerate some expensive repairs, because remember, you're out of warranty now, then I would probably go to the 540. It's just the best, probably jack of all trades, master of none, better performance, tunability, and a little more reliability than you'd get with the 550. That's my take. Thanks, Alina. And that is a great question. I know a lot of people ask the same thing. I've seen that question come a few times. So Orion Schroeder says V8 all the way, no replacement for displacement. Yeah, you know what, Orion, 100%. Again, if performance is your primary objective, you go with the 550, or even better, go with the M5, even better yet. It's the same displacement, but a much more sport-tuned engine. And trust me when I say you get in the M5 competition, it's a very memorable experience, extremely memorable, very fast car. But just know that the cost to fix that comes with that. Kevin Hawthorne, hey, welcome back there, Kevin. Great to hear from you. And clearly, if I'm at 3:30 here, Edmonton time, Mountain Standard, you must be 5:30. Does that sound about right? Your time, Lakeland, Florida. Beautiful spot. Again, very, very devastating. We were supposed to go to Florida. We missed the boat. WestJet, we were supposed to fly with on the long weekend here in Canada Day long weekend, which I think followed up with, it was going into July there. So it was your long weekend there too. WestJet went on strike. And so we weren't able to fly out to Florida. And that really, really was a thorn in our cross. We ended up doing a California trip instead. But Florida, absolutely beautiful. And I definitely want to make it down there again soon. 5:25 p.m. You betcha. Yeah, 2 hours ahead. That makes sense. Joel, where we are live, 100%. I messed up on the last live spread. I totally blew that one. I forgot to put it public. I sat there for 45 minutes. I gassed on, and I looked at it. I was like, "There's nobody watching. This is kind of interesting. What happened there?" But that was my mess up, and I apologize. So that's why I want to follow this up with another live stream here. I've got a little bit of time I want to spend with you guys here today. Avelino Mariensike, sorry if I hope I'm getting that right. I have a 2000 Corvette and have been driving with EBCM and traction control issue. Parts still not drivable. What advice would you recommend in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada? Well, the Corvette folks in Edmonton, yeah, and I don't want to name call like any of the dealers. The dealers, I know there's honestly, I'm not specifically that dialed in with some of the aftermarket Corvette shops, if we're being honest. I'd probably have to dig that up for you. I'm not entirely sure who the players are. I do know there was a place on the south side just off Calgary Trail years ago. They were over by the nightclub there, by the old Denny Andrews. They're long gone, but there are Corvette people. I've also got some folks that do project, and they specifically like their GM, and they do a lot of hot rod tuning, more the old school GM products, but they've adapted carbureted cars, old school cars, adapted, put EFI systems and a lot of the electronic updates on old school cars. So they're really good and savvy with the GM and Chevy products. I do have an individual there that works out of Tofield area. But again, not specific to Corvettes. I'd probably have to do a little digging and maybe find that out. Joel, New Jersey in the house. You betcha. Right on, New Jersey. Love it. I got to make it there, man. My wife's been out to New York City and that whole side. I've never been there. I've been to Ontario, and I've been to Minnesota, Boston. I've been to a bunch of spots over on the East Coast, but I never really made it to New York. But that would be a cool one day. Definitely a plan. Joel, again, I love your work. I look forward to all the time your videos. Keep up the good work. No, I really appreciate that, Joel. I definitely put in a lot of hard work to do this and to deliver quality content, and not just quality and big, flashy and showy videography, because I think that's fun to watch for 5 minutes. And we see a lot of that out there. I try to focus more on fun, entertaining, but yet give the information. There's a lot of channels, and you see it all the time. They promise this, and you get into it, and 10 minutes later, they haven't delivered on any of it. And that's the last thing I want to do. If I'm going to say this is the worst or this is the best, I'm going to deliver on that. And I work hard at trying to do that. So I appreciate the support there, Joel. I really do. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Share the hit and like button for sure to get a little extra support. That goes a long ways, because I will share one little tidbit that some of you know, some of you don't. I've seen the odd comment already slide in here in this channel and the other channels. I've got a few channels on the go. Part of why I'm actually ramping up, I've got some areas of expertise, certainly some areas I really want to bring focus to. But I basically left a full-time gig. I was working a full-time job, full disclosure. Can't really say where. I can't say what the conditions were, why, and all of those things. But I've left. I've formally said bye-bye to the full-time 9 to 5. And now I have gone in full feet first, dove in head first, actually, really. Doesn't really matter, to full-on doing the content creation, and I want to bring great content, and I really want to diversify a little bit, but more specifically, I want to bring better content. Again, we've got some great editors on board. The manager, we're looking at some new projects coming up too. So I really want to bring focus to the channels and bring better and better content as we get into this every single week. So you're on New York on Thursday. That's awesome. Yeah. I've got to get out there one of these days. Orion Schroeder, again, your content is detailed and very well spoken. Mark, your attention to detail is what makes a difference for me. You know what, Orion, I really, really do appreciate that. And that does mean a lot. And like I said, I do try to bring that focus because I see so many channels, and there's some amazing Canadian channels out there that do some really cool reviews. I won't necessarily name drop, but I also see some others that, that it's easy, cookie cutter, sounds very robotic, almost sounds borderline AI, and they just show up and they cookie cut material. And I don't want to be like that. I really want it to be bringing that detail into your face right up front, and content that matters. It's fun, it's informative, and a lot of times there's humor buried in there too. So that has been the point. Okay, well, let's dive into another quick question. Let us see. I had somebody that asked a question. Joe Garcia, 3954. Would you recommend a 2024 X5 BMW? Yes, 100%. Recommend it in what way? I would say stick with the standard garden variety suspension. Don't go with the self-leveling systems. Keep it simple. Suspension is one of the weak points on some of those. When you get the airbags, those can fail. So go with the standard suspension setup, and go with the the X40 or the 40 series that gets you the B58, and skip out on the 50 series. Again, as I mentioned initially, as I mentioned initially about the V8s, they're wonderful for performance, but more compromised for cost and maintenance costs. So definitely, if your priorities are strictly performance, you go with the X5M or even the 50 series. But if you're like, I like some performance, but I want a little more durability, a little more economy, a little more livability, long-term ownership, possibly go with the 40 series on the X5. That would be my take on that. David Poop says, yo, Mark. Hey, how's it going, David? Great to hear from you, for sure. Chief DK, love your videos and your focus on reliability on nice cars, not just Toyota and Lexus. You turned me on to the B58 and how reliable it is. Did you think the resale value of BMW will increase now? I think it does. And I know it does. I don't know if you're going to expect the resale of a good, hearty, well-known, well-vested Lexus. People just have this inherent faith and trust in Toyota and Lexus products. Some of it's justified and some of it's not. And we'll get into some of those Toyota details here in a bit. But the B58, like I've got, my daughter has a friend that actually has been driving BMWs. He lives and loves BMWs, possibly a little bit inspired by some of my content. He's currently got a diesel 3 Series, and he's looking to do the next step and been looking at a lot of models. And he really wants to get into a B58 powered car, whether it's a 3 or 4 Series, but he's a little bit disheartened because, he's looking at the budget and the costs to get a nice secondhand B58 that's not smashed or bashed or worn out is actually pretty high. So that tells me that resale is quite high on the B58 powered cars. So people who know. And so that's what I would say. Yeah, the resale, you're going to lose money. It's a car, but it's not like a tank. It's not going to fall off the cliff. That's probably, the car, if you're going to buy new or very close to new, know that your depreciation will be very light and moderate. It won't be off a cliff, like some cars out there, modern C-Class Mercedes, for example, or even worse, a Jaguar or a Maserati and Alfa. Those are all fun cars, but depreciation just beats them hard. But the B58, yeah, I think depreciation will be actually pretty reasonable on them. Joel, we saw the post 2 weeks ago. The retire, the 8 to 5, nothing but more blessings are coming. Thanks, Joel. I do appreciate that. And I do bring focus on that other channel. it's a good opportunity for me to actually share. You can call it a vlog because it's kind of what it is, but it's really informative. It's a vlog. But it's living my lifestyle now. As you know, you might say I've somewhat retired from the corporate game. And so as a result, I'm expressing that I'm talking about some of those details. What's it like, the feelings, and I'm coming at it more from a heartfelt perspective. It's not about, 5 reasons you should do this or 6, reasons you shouldn't do that. It's not about that. It's really more about the feelings and the battles that we have emotionally and psychologically about the idea of retiring, whether it's too soon or too late. And I want to talk about that because, my mantra on the primary channel is life's too short to drive boring cars. Absolutely. But life's too short to waste, working at an ungrateful job too. Now, I'm not here to try to pitch that and tell anybody to quit. You've got to follow that channel to understand that in a little more depth. I'm saying under certain criteria, if you're ready financially, emotionally, if your spouse is on board, and there's a whole lot of other criteria that has to go with that. Don't just jump ship. That would be potentially catastrophic. So, let's just see here. Quadrajet says 2024 Forerunner Limited. How much off MSRP should I be looking for? Currently, I'm 6% off MSRP. I'm assuming, Quadrajet, you're talking about below MSRP, I'm hoping. You know what? Toyota's getting a little bit awkward here, in my opinion. They were charging over sticker. And for models that were even more, short, harder to come by, they were charging well over sticker. A good example was that plug-in hybrid version of their RAV4. So the RAV4 Prime, classic example. In my opinion, never pay over sticker. And I wouldn't take any of the extras. Just give me base sticker. Definitely be whittling off of that. I would be looking at off of invoice, actually, and try to chisel off a little bit from that. And so between invoice and sticker, try to be working in that space realistically. Never go above sticker. And honestly, that's how a lot of reason we're in the predicament we are today with the market and the car market is because too many people were paying over sticker and willing to do so. But 6% below sticker, that sounds reasonable for a Toyota. They seem to be holding good value. That feels like a good number. At sticker, you're paying is what's fair market value, which unfortunately, do you see for 25, Toyota's been jacking up some of their prices. So as you're talking about 25s now, that feels wrong to me. Camrys are going up in price. A lot of these prices. And since you're talking Forerunner, yeah, I believe you're talking about the outgoing or the outgoing still with the V6. That is the one you want. Don't get the new turbo yet. That'd be my suggestion. Get while you can of the V6s. So I think you're making a good choice on that one. Thanks there, Quadrajet. Good choice. Let's just see here. Jacob's Trouble. I bought a brand new B58 vehicle recently. Not worried about depreciation at all. Loved all your BMW videos. Appreciate that, Jacob. Yeah, no, that's good. And I'm glad I'm able to share some of that. Again, I'll be real about it. And when I talk about this is an amazing car or amazing engine, you'll notice that usually in the videos, I do still give you some of the weak areas because I think it's fair to say not just, oh, this is an amazing engine or this is an amazing car and stop there where a lot of people do that. Sure, I can go down the negative path or the rabbit hole and say, yeah, these are the worst engines and give you a list of reasons why. But if you're buying some of the best products, you know that nothing's perfect and there will be some weaknesses. So I want to shed some of that light in there for you. Let's just see here. What else do we got? Grab another one. What years of RX 350? Rick Riano Pro asked me, what years of the RX 350 should he buy? I believe, don't quote me, I think 21 or 22 was the first year of the new Turbo 4. So I believe you want to, I think it's around 2020 or 2021 is the last year with the V6. That's the last year you want to buy in the RX 350. In my own opinion, that's where you want to reside and maybe buy one of those with ultra low Ks instead of buying a brand new one. That'd be my opinion. Glenn Roberts, looking for a newer retirement all-wheel drive 4-cylinder turbo or 6-cylinder aspiration for reliability. Well, I'm assuming if you want to go in retirement, you don't want something big, flashy, you want something reliable, effective, a nice vehicle. What I would say, Glenn, I'm assuming because that's a pretty vague statement. I would say look at Mazda. Look, my preference right now, I love the Mazdas. Like I look at some of those and they're nicer looking, they're better performing than anything that Toyota's doing, like in the RAVs, or anything that Honda's doing in the CRVs. If you want something that's smaller to mid-size, it's economical, it's reliable, try the Mazda CX-50. I like the 50 because it's shrunken, it's wider, it looks a little beefier. Or if you want something that's a little more conventional, the CX-5. I've got a good buddy that's got one. I've got another person that I know that's got a CX-5 as well, and another one that I know that's got a CX-50. Everybody loves them. And some of these people are repeat Mazda owners, and they swear by them. And everything I've been seeing and hearing, barring a few odds and sods or a few anomalies, the Mazdas are a great way to go. I would seriously take a look. I've got some, friends of friends that have gone and bought their Nissan Rogue. And I said, no, don't do the Rogue. Bad engines, bad gearboxes, don't bother. And they went and bought one anyway because they drove it, compared it with the, I think they tried the Toyota as well, the RAV, and they said no. They went with the Nissan. Yes, it's a nice looking driving product. I would recommend against that personally. Maybe look at the Mazdas. That would be a good place to start. Let me just see here. What else do we have? Okay, well, I have another question by Bruno Hagley. Says, so what type of F-Type should we buy? They're talking about the Jaguar F-Type. Everybody saw mine. I have that dark gray with nice little pinned race stripes on it. Absolutely immense. Bottom line is, what type F-Type should you buy? Buy an R or an SVR. SVR is going to hold a better value. The R is better bang for buck, has the same engine. It's down about 25 horsepower, but you know what? You don't feel that. The kick in the pants is going to be pretty much the same. I would suggest getting the newer all-wheel drive versions. They grip better, they're safer, and honestly, you get better acceleration out of the hole because they just bite. So SVR or R, F-Type, period. That's the way I would recommend going, and you'll have a lot of fun, and it sounds amazing too. So let me just see here. David Poop says, hey, Mark, I gotta go, man. I gotta walk my dog. I enjoyed a little bit of your live. Thanks, David. If you're still here, appreciate you with the sound effects and with remarks. Cheers. So you love watching some of the recorded episodes. That's awesome. Thanks there, David. Appreciate it. That's so wicked, and I appreciate the support. Scotty Cadet, really appreciate that, Scotty. Again, this means so much, all this additional support from each and every one of you. And it does mean a lot. You know, I put a lot of effort and I just want to deliver as much good quality content for you. Thanks, Scotty. So you've been watching since pre-COVID when I was looking for a safe car to welcome my daughter. I'm on my third diesel X5 with a 600-mile range. Thanks. Yeah, Scotty, it sounds like you're loving it. We had that 09, the E70 X5, and it sounds like you've kind of went with the same path. We loved it. We were actually just talking about the other day. We did this big trip to California, and I would have loved to have it. We did sell it a few years ago because we were changing, and after so long, we had the vehicle for like 10 years or 12 years. I don't even remember. And it was already up to about 250,000 kilometers. So it was time to maybe say sayonara. We loved it. For the first 150,000 kilometers, 180,000 kilometers, that thing was absolutely awesome. Amazing performance, super comfortable, well built. It had all the amenities, phenomenal fuel mileage, 600-mile range. You nailed it. We drove all the way from Penticton, BC, all the way back down through the mountains, up and down the hills to Calgary and then Red Deer. And if anybody who knows that mileage, we clocked that was about 850, 900 kilometers. It's probably about 550, 500 miles, 550 miles. And it told us we still had about 130 kilometers left. It was pushing our luck. We didn't want to go there. But 600 miles all day long, Scotty. Ops, that is awesome. Great to hear. And I'm glad that that I had a little bit of a positive influence. The only thing I'll add, of course, with time, with age, with hard use, some of the emissions stuff can go. What the guy who bought ours did, full delete. Now, it depends where you live. That might be an option. It might not be. He went full delete. You get a little more smoke, a little bit more of that noise. But he got rid of, the EGR, the tune, get rid of all those things and those issues. And then you get rid of the diesel exhaust fluid tank and the heater. Said bye-bye to that and bye-bye to high dollar emissions repairs. So he loved it. I loved it. And everybody was happy. So X5 diesel is an awesome, awesome rig. And I still swear by it. Not all BMWs were amazing, but that was one of their best. I really believe that N57 engine is just spectacular. And Joel, yeah, thank you, Scotty, for the support. Yeah, you betcha. Thanks, Scotty. That is awesome. Luke Walker. Hey there, Luke. It's been a while. I definitely is the GM 2-liter turbo with 237 horsepower engine used in Cadillac, a popular 4-cylinder turbo for years, deemed reliable. I'm going to say better than some of their smaller, what was it, the 1.6 Ecotechs and some of those those were junk. These are better. But GM and turbo engines, just to understand, they're not problem-free. They're not as bad as those smaller Ecotechs and that, but they may have some issues. Overall, I would say you still got to be thinking about turbo issues. Still got to be thinking about water pump and cooling system problems. But they're a lot better. They're a lot better. And some of the late model 4-cylinder turbos in some of these GM products, they are getting a little better. They're not a total nightmare and catastrophic failure waiting to happen like you find in the Chevy Cruzes and some of those vehicles. So, yeah, definitely. Maybe an option to look at. Let me just see here. Alfred Jung says, how reliable is an Acura Integra 1.5 turbo engine? Fairly reliable, but similar engine that we find in the Hondas. And the Hondas, the 1.5 liter turbo 4-cylinder with the fuel and the oil dilution issues, because being direct injected, and a lot of people drive their cars, they start it and go. But unfortunately, high pressure fuel injected directly into the engine combustion chamber under high pressure on a cold engine when the rings are tighter, or not tighter, but there's a little bit looser, things expand and with the heat, and then it tightens up. High pressure pushing past a looser set of rings on a cold engine pushes fuel into the crankcase below the rings, starts to mix the oil and fuel. Then you get breakdown, you get deterioration, accelerated deterioration in the rod bearings and lower engine parts, can lead to catastrophic engine failures or just early deterioration. So there are ways to mitigate more frequent oil changes, the right type of oil, and even more importantly, properly warm up that engine before you really get on it. That engine seems really susceptible to that, although a lot of directed engines are somewhat more susceptible because this phenomenon does exist in a lot of engines, but it just seems to be the small displacement. The configuration is just not totally agreeable, and it tends to do that, blows that fuel past, and then you have more of those issues. So it's more of one of those administratively controlled type engines. If you're going to own one, just make sure you be prepared for more frequent oil services and the gentle care that you would administer. Otherwise, a good, reliable engine otherwise, and great performing, for sure. Yeah, you're welcome there, Alfred. What do we see here? Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I see you got some more questions. For now, I'm going to dive into the ultimate kind of the question that the lead in of this video, talking about Toyotas and these engines and what's going on with Toyota and Lexus. And you've all heard it. We've heard about, is a car worth buying, a new Toyota worth buying, Toyota or Lexus? Well, a lot of you have been hearing there's been a lot of catastrophic failures. The lot of the late model, these new V35A engines, I believe they call 3.4 liter twin turbo V6 engines that you're getting in Toyota, Lexus, Toyota Tundra, Sequoia, Lexus. You get them in Lexus LX 600, and even the GX 550 now has that engine in it. And it's unfortunate because those engines have so much promise, but they've been blowing engines left, right, and center. And a lot of it has to do, now they're finding initially that, well, okay, wrong fueling, detonation because of poor grade of fuel, oil services. Maybe we need to reduce them, bring down the intervals, wrong type of grade or viscosity of oil. There's all kinds of excuses that customers have been getting allegedly from Toyota as feedback. But as time has gone on, they finally realized that it sounds like more of a machining process issue, not unlike Hyundai, Kia, where what they ended up having was a lot of more metal particulate in the oil that circulates around, and some of that metals and certain sizes of it would hang up in the main bearings, not so much in the rod bearings, but the main bearings on the outer edge of the crankshaft, and then it would overheat and burn up and potential catastrophic fail. And that's a bad scene. Now, gone are the days of doing, I worked in mechanic shops, and I've rebuilt engines, and I've certainly helped rebuild engines, 911 turbo engines, 911 Porsche engines, and a lot of even regular everyday engines, BMW engines, you name it. I've had my fingers in a lot of different drivetrains, done things like plastic gauging. Nobody does that anymore. They might slap it together new parts and just call it good and assume everything's within spec. But things like plastic gauging, old school engine builders techniques. Another technique would be fill it with oil, run it for maybe 3, 4, 500 miles, dump it, do it again. Run it for another 2,000 miles, dump it, and then you're good to go. Because what happens is you get all that Loctite, you get gasket sealant, you get metal particulate and filings in the engine, and you've got to get that crap out of there. And so the old engine builder design or attitude was get that, flush it out, flush it out, flush it out. Nobody does that anymore, very few. And that's part of the big issue here, is that there was a lack of doing that. And now Toyota's feeling the burn on some of those issues. But did you hear the recent? Oh, by the way, on that, 102,000 engines promised to be replaced. And this guy here's calling me out. So South DL says, are you aware of Toyota not fixing the engines? And then says, at no cost, you should be more updated with the news in order to avoid a serious case of fake news. Because he's saying rather than replacing with a new one. So the word has it, there's been talk back and forth, partial engine replacement, partial component changes, then full engine replacements. But at the end of the day, it feels like it's still a case by case. The last news I had was full engine replacements. But what I've also heard, have you heard now the new GR80, the new GR Corolla? There's been a few cases now with blown up engines. Yeah, they're turbo 3-cylinder engine that sounded like high performance. It was taking tuning. And now they're having failures on a new Toyota engine. The Corolla GR is blowing up. There's already a couple of storylines there. And allegedly, Toyota is not allowing or not paying for replacement. Even with warranty still in place, they're saying we see the log and it says you exceeded 85 miles per hour. Therefore, you voided warranty. And this on an engine that was designed and marketed to be a high performance engine to be used at, on tracks or in that performance environment. Time will tell, everybody. But Lexus, Toyota, it feels like they're going through some hard times. And yeah, I mean, that's not a good scene. Jai Singh, I'm looking into an Audi A4. Thanks there, Jai, for the extra, and I really appreciate that too. I do appreciate the support here. Well, let's look at this. Do you recommend an S-Line version with a sportier, stiffer suspension, or a sport model which has standard suspension? I would always say go with the sportier suspension. It depends where you're driving and how you plan to use it. But I always find this a softer suspension, or even the higher sidewalls too. And some of these cars, not just like Audi specific, if you can upgrade wheels, I like to upgrade the wheels. I love a car that has a little more stability. So always go with the sport suspension. Always, 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 in my opinion, the handling is going to be more surefire. I actually had a situation here this weekend where driving my wife's car, her Porsche. We had a 911. We were out ripping around, and we had a sudden evasive maneuver we had to make because of a real aggressive move on some other driver. And because of the car's characteristics, we were able to stop, turn, evade, and we were good. And I was thinking to myself, if I had something like my truck, it would have been a collision. There's no way I could have avoided that. And so I always like to think, not just from a performance, it doesn't matter if you're going to race the car or not. I would always think that you want to, if there's one thing you want, it's the better suspension and the better brakes. Also, if I can suggest, Jai, if I could suggest, depends on the drivetrain you're planning on going with. With Audi, I'm always going to go with the upgrade engine. I would say stay away from their base 4-cylinder TFSI engines. I would definitely veer away from that. Go with the Audi, even the S series, of cars. Definitely, maybe an S4 or certainly their 6-cylinder engines. They're going to be more reliable traditionally than you're going to get out of the 4-cylinders. And it's not, even though you get better performance, better punch, you're going to get more reliability. It's just with time. It seems to be an Audi thing. Their 4-cylinder engines seem to burn oil. I mean, you go back 10 years ago, those were real bad oil burners. And even we're finding now the later model 4-cylinder, their base 4-cylinder engines becoming a little bit more, consuming a little bit more oil. That would be my take. Go with the upgraded engine and specifically go with the sport suspension. If you can upgrade the wheels, that's even better. And again, it's not about saying I'm going to take this autocrossing or go to the racetrack. I always think accident avoidance and also think resale, because the majority of these cars that are leased and purchased by people that just want, I just want the name. That's what they're buying, the base. So if you want something that might help a little down the road on depreciation, that might get you an extra few bucks, I think a lot of that money comes back in spades. So if you're upgrading some of those other pieces, those are the worthwhile upgrades. So I hope that helps you there, Jai. I do think that's going to be the better solution. You also say, do even the newer Audi 2-liter, the TFSI 4-cylinder engines like 2023 have problems? I haven't heard as many problems with the latest because it's newer. They're getting better. Everything I'm hearing, but carbon fouling still a factor. Water pumps I'm still hearing to be a thing. And a lot of their parts are modular on the intake manifold and that. And I've heard of cracked intake manifolds in parts, even on a relatively late model. I can't say a 23 specifically. But I'm still a little hesitant in offering up the base 2-liter on the Audis. If I could be so bold as to say, I would recommend going up to the next style engine. But that's, if it's not in the budget, it's still a great car. And they are getting better. So in that note, if you look at a 2012 versus a 2022, it's a vastly better car, not better looking, but they seem to be better and more reliable. So I think you'll be fine, Jai. I do believe you'll be fine with that engine. It's just, I would recommend stepping that up a little bit if you can. And if it's not in the cards, don't worry about it. It's still a solid car. Gianna Penta, I love your content and best wishes on your new journey. Thanks. I do appreciate that so much. And I love all the wishes. And it feels like almost everybody has been so supportive. And that's why I wanted to dive right in. And I wanted to make this, the creator, the content creation to be this is my baby. This is what I do. This is what I love. And this is what I want to deliver to each and every one of you. And I want to do it with this best, most passion and informative material that you can possibly get your hands on. That's awesome. Let's just see. Luke Walker, your chat persona is quite different from your videos. Yeah, what do you think there, Luke? Is it better, worse? My little hyper, spazzy? I don't know. Even my other vlog now that I'm doing, the retirement one, as you'll notice, that one is really just me relaxing. I get up. I like to do that in the morning before I start spinning basically spooling up the turbos, so to speak. I'm still kind of just chill mode. That's why I grab my coffee and I'm very low key. And so when you catch the vlog, I'm very just like that, level and cool. And then I just, once I start getting excited, I start thinking and researching, and then that's when I start fired up. Um, CD, would you rather get an N52 or a B48? Yeah, good question. N52. I would say go there, CD, with the non-turbos if you can find yourself a good, clean, relatively low-mile car. And the thing I would concern myself more with is the condition of the chassis, rust. If it's a clean car, go with the naturally aspirated drivetrains. The B48s are awesome. These new turbos are great engines. I do believe that for longevity, ownership, if you want to keep it for a long period of time, probably going to have a little bit more success with the N52. With something that's naturally aspirated, some of the older school drivetrains are likely going to be around a lot longer or easier for you to maintain. And that's the big takeaway here. Joel says, Mark, and Chief DK asked early, is it's worthy added extended warranty on a X740? I would say, Joel, yeah, probably. If you don't, I mean, you're going to get into it, and these are not cheap cars, and not all warranties are the same. I mean, make sure you're getting a good certified pre-owned car, get the proper factory warranty, make sure you read the fine print, make sure you understand the ins and outs, because a lot of warranties aren't the same and a lot of them are a ripoff. But if you could, for an extra, I'm a believer, if you could add an extra 3 years of warranty and maybe an extra 50,000 miles or 80,000 miles and get you that extra peace of mind for an extra $2,000, for me, I think I would do that. Absolutely. For those types of cars, even though they're quite reliable. I mean, it's still parts break, turbos, wastegates, and anything mechanical, it can still fail. So I would probably do that if for the right price. VC Alfred, 2014 to 2020 Lexus GX460. Is this a good truck to buy and used? Oh, you read my mind. This video will be coming out, by the way. I actually have a video coming out, and you're going to love this, all of you, because you're asking me this versus that, older versus newer. I actually got a video coming out with some of the older versions that will outlast the new versions of the same vehicle. And so the Lexus is the one you're talking about. The GX460 is guaranteed going to far outlast the 550 in the new version. Guaranteed. That is an amazing engine. Take care of it. Watch for the top V. There's the occasional issue with leaks, but those are built for a ton of miles. Slow turning, torquey, easy to drive. 300, I think it was around 300 ponies on it. Lots of power, lots of reliability. And honestly, if you take care of it, you can get easily 300, 400, 500,000 miles. I've even heard of almost 1 million miles out of these things. Yes, yes, yes. So definitely, VC Alfred, definitely the 460 GX is a car worth, or an SUV worth owning. Let me see. CD, I wonder what's more reliable, an N54 or S65 or S85. I know you got an M5 V10 and used to have an N54. Would be interesting to hear your take on how the two compare to each other. CD, totally different engines and configurations. What I will say is the N54 is not a great engine. I think he's got the forged bottom end, but it's still an open top. And so cooling system, blown head gaskets, although not that common, are a possibility. But with that said, the S85, the S65, close family members, obviously the V8 versus the V10, have their own challenges. They're very expensive to maintain. Rod bearings, they generally don't live beyond much 60, 70, 80,000 miles without doing bottom end. Throttle actuators, SMG gearbox pumps, and things like that. There's a lot of expensive parts. Reliability wise, I think just because the sheer complexity of the S85 and S65, I would say this is a tough one, man, because it's totally different failure modes. But I would say fundamentals and ease of repairs and replacement of parts and simplicity of accessing parts. Hate to say this, the N54 has probably got an edge on durability. Um, but in terms of long term, like those are throwaway engines. So I'd still rather take the S85 over all of them. The S65 is a cool engine too in the V8s with the M3s, but I honestly, that's a tough call. If you want to keep it and it's a keeper, I think there's going to be a lot more ask in the future for people that are sick and tired of these EVs. And I believe the V10s are going to be sought after. They're not worth that much now, but you're watching prices creep up. I do believe there's going to be a much bigger market, even with bottom ends that you have to rebuild every 60,000 miles. I think the M5 has more of a future potential. That's my own opinion on that. So 100%. So let me just see here. You know what? Actually, the way it's panning out, I actually have to get going, everybody. I do appreciate you stopping in. And CD, you do ask, do I still have the M5? Yes, on my way out the door here. I got to go. I really thank each and every one of you. Do I still have the M5? Before I go, thanks so much for all the extra support, everyone. Don't forget to check out the channels. And as well as, again, as always, if you want to become a member, we'll get your comments and questions front and center. We'll answer them and we'll give you the meat and potatoes in a long form answer. But yes, do I still have the M5? I absolutely do. Still have the E60 M5, still sitting in the garage. Love it. It's got a little dust on it, but I was looking at it the other day. I got to put a windshield in it, probably a new set of front skins, and it's ready to rock and roll. I love that car. Oh, I love that car. It's still amazing. So anyway, thanks again, everybody. Over and out. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you on the next one. See you real soon. Bye-bye.